Caesars seems to be a somewhat late comer compared to some of the big operators in terms of wanting to get into the Japanese
You know,
market.
it's actually not the case. We have had a representative here in Japan for about 15 years, and our strategy has always been to work behind the scenes with government and with partners. So I've been with Caesars for 6 years, and in those 6 years, we come frequently to Japan. We've spent a lot of time working with the government, working with potential investors and partners in that time. We had about 2 years ago, we went through a restructuring, and that certainly slowed our active pursuit. Plus, with the stops and starts of the legislative process, we weren't going to overinvest in the market until we were convinced that they would pass the legislation. But since they've passed, we renewed all of our discussions, and I think that we are as well positioned as any of the other competitors in being successful in obtaining one of the licenses.
Well, why Japan? I mean, there's a whole world out there. What about this market, this country, has got your eye?
Well, clearly, our mandate at Caesars is to pursue Asia most aggressively because it's where the growth is, and not only China and with the Chinese gaming it's just a cultural phenomenon where they love to gamble, and you see the results in Macau and other markets supported by the Chinese. But now that Japan has decided to pursue the expansion of the gaming industry, you only have to look at the actual gambling spend in Japan today. It's estimated about $30 billion in different forms of gambling. Granted, not yet in casinos, but in sports betting and in boat racing and in pachinko, which is in effect a gambling in itself. I think that there's strong evidence that this market will be extremely successful, and I think that when you look at the analyst studies of the size of that market, it puts it probably the second largest in the world behind Macau.
You know, some of the other operators had at least some months ago, were making some rather eye-popping statements about $10 billion investments or whatever it takes, or all kinds of things like this. What's Caesar's view on that? I mean, are you basically all in on Japan?
Well, it's too early, I think, for anyone to predict how much they would invest when we don't even know the guidelines for the regulations, and how they decide to control their concerns about harm minimization will certainly impact the supportable investment on the project. I think that once we better understand the key drivers, revenue, expense, and those are driven by tax rates, by accessibility for the Japanese market and the tourist market, I think that will allow us to more accurately forecast the supportable investment. I think it can be a big number if everything is allowed to transpire as we would hope, in that there'd be less limited constraints on Japan access, on Japanese access, and tax rates that would be considered reasonable. If the government does put in place more stringent controls, I think it will reduce the supportable investment. It's simply a matter of economics and your business model. So I think that will be to be seen. Regardless, Caesars is committed to pursuing this market aggressively. We think that there will be opportunities for very successful integrated resorts. We're working closely with the government to align ourselves. We think that Caesars is the best qualified integrated resort operator for a number of reasons, and as such, we hope to be successful in winning one of the 2 or 3 licenses that they're going to issue in the first phase.
Well, why don't you follow that little point, pitch yourself. What is exactly these reasons that Caesars is better than Sands, better than MGM, that would make you the best fit for the Japanese market?
Well, I think there's a number of reasons. First off, I think it's sort of in our DNA to partner in all of our various ventures. And we know in Japan that the government's going to want a consortium represented by both Japanese investors and international operators to be successful. And the fact that some of our competitors have never had partner experiences and been able to prove that they are good partners, I think is a concern to a number of the Japanese investors or potential Japanese investors. So that message resonates. We can point to our partner history and our successful partnering. On the other side, I think the government has made it clear that they want to put in place the most stringent regulations possible. And I think Caesars is recognized because we are the most diverse operator in the business. We have the most casinos. We We work with the most jurisdictions, gaming jurisdictions around the world. We have to meet, the most stringent requirements and the lowest common denominator of regulatory environments throughout all of our portfolio. And as such, I think that gives the Japanese government a certain amount of comfort and assurity that we're going to operate at that highest level of integrity. Gaming addiction's also been a concern in Japan, and Caesars can point to our history with responsible gaming, having been the first to recognize the issue, to put in place programs to address responsible gaming, to identify those who have problems with gambling, and help to develop programs to train our employees, to allow the customers to self-exclude into certain properties. It's a whole series of initiatives, what we call responsible gaming, which I think puts us at the forefront. Now, we were the first to do that. A lot of the other competitors have done the same, but I think we're proud of our code of commitment, which ensures that we minimize the risks. I think another factor would be our total rewards program. We have probably the most recognized loyalty program in the industry. We have over 50 million members. I think that expertise will serve us well in this market. And then finally, I think from a government perspective, there's concern. I think the U.S. analysts primarily speak about how the fact that we're not in Macau is a disadvantage. Japan has made it clear they're not going to allow junket operators to operate in Japan. And I think that kind of takes away the advantage that those in Macau currently have. We see an opportunity to bring a very high level of regulations and corporate responsibility, and I think they don't want to necessarily replicate the way that business is done in Macau today, and so I think that also positions us well. So those are just a couple of the reasons why I think we actually are finding tremendous traction as we're talking to the government and to potential investors.
How about market size? I mean, you're obviously one of the larger operators. Does that mean that you're really only going to go for one of the top urban markets like Osaka or Yokohama if they bid? Or are you going to be taking a look at smaller things like Nagasaki and Hokkaido and whatever other smaller operations make a bid?
Well, because, just as you say, we have such a diverse portfolio of existing operations, clearly the large urban destinations catch everyone's attention because the size of the market is so compelling. So yes, we're pursuing opportunities in Osaka and in Yokohama if both of them decide to throw their hat in the ring at the time of bidding. But at the same time, regional opportunities are right up our alley in that we have a lot of experience developing regional resorts around the world, primarily in North America. And as such, we have spent time in Hokkaido. We think that's actually one of the more compelling regional markets, and we hope to further our diligence with an opportunity in Hokkaido as well.
For the last couple of weeks, there's been a kind of a brouhaha in the media about the Japanese regulation being too tough. In fact, some rather dramatic things about, none of the operators even want to come to Japan anymore. Do you feel scared off by what you're hearing about the regulation, or what's your attitude about the news that you're hearing about the way that the Japanese government is going about regulating the casino size and the entry requirements?
Well, we appreciate the government's initiative to try and create the most stringent and regulated jurisdiction around the world. So I think their effort trying to ensure that the social costs are minimized is applaudable. So I actually appreciate what they're trying to do. I hope that the government, and we've encouraged the government to look at scientific data to show that, well, some of these initiatives that they've proposed aren't proven to be successful in minimizing issues like addictive behavior. By limiting the number of times a guest can come into a casino or raising an artificially high barrier of ticket price actually encourages or exacerbates the problem of an addicted gamer, because they come in, they feel like they've got to recover their fees, or that they have to game as much as possible during that one visit. And so I think that is what would actually result in the opposite objective. That said, we also believe that the government has, as I say, the right objectives in mind, and we will work and continue to work with the government to make sure that they implement the most successful set of guidelines possible for the industry.
You know, obviously you're right. I mean, right at the top of the public and government concern is gambling addiction, and that's why, you know, polls show 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 the public is against establishing casinos at this point, despite what's going on at the national level. If you were talking to one of these government or non-government groups, what kinds of gambling addiction measures would you say are supported by the science and they should be looking at most seriously?
Clearly, well, I think just to start with, I'd say that when you look at the actual statistics in jurisdictions which launch new casino initiatives, whether it be in Singapore or in our case, properties throughout the United States, the level of gaming addiction or issues with gaming drop significantly after the introduction, because when you bring the programs to try and address gaming addiction to a new market and bring the awareness and educate your team and those who are offering the entertainment to our customers, you see a proven drop in addictive rates. And I think that should reassure the Japanese that while to date, with the significant amount of gambling that has taken place in Japan without the associated addiction programs, yes, you've seen a somewhat high rate of addictive behavior in Japan. I'm convinced that when this industry brings its experience and the programs to address gaming addiction to this market, we'll see the same thing that we've seen around the world, and that is that addiction rates will drop, they'll be heavily controlled, there'll be an opportunity to really bring the best practices to Japan to address the problem. The problem, I think, is that the public doesn't really understand the whole issue around the gaming industry. They're integrated resorts, they're entertainment resorts. The gaming piece of it is a small percentage of the total floor area for the resorts. And there are so many other forms of entertainment that we'll be offering that we have to help educate the public that it's not just a gaming experience. And you can see that in Las Vegas, where actually only 30% of our revenues are generated from gambling for Caesars in Las Vegas. And so I guess that's a long way to say I think that the programs can be managed in terms of specific initiatives. For us, it would be training programs, which I think the government has recognized as being important, and we put all of our employees, even those who aren't dealing face-to-face with a customer, through a responsible gaming program to help educate the general employee workforce on what are the sort of issues you have. Then the training programs for those gaming ambassadors who are on the floor to help identify and be a resource to those who have issues and who can identify sort of the triggers that we know from our experience indicate some issues with addictive behavior. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's not in our interest to have a number of our customers have problems with their gaming behavior or gambling behavior. So we have no incentive to encourage them to play, and as such we have exclusion programs, whether it's self-exclusion or the family can exclude, which prevents them from coming into the property and from abusing the gambling rights.
What does Caesars bring to the table that would be different from some of the other operators? I mean, everyone's kind of has their own area they're trying to push. What kind of characteristic, what kind of flavor would a Caesars IR in Japan probably involve?
Well, as I think you can tell from the name Caesars Entertainment, our focus is on entertainment. And I think there's a number of firsts we can point to for Caesars that reflect our focus on entertainment and a unique form of entertainment that we would look to bring here to Japan as well. First, there's the artists in residence, the entertainers in residence. We created in Caesars Palace the Coliseum. I don't know if you've had a chance to see the Coliseum, but it's a over 2,000 seat venue where we built it originally for Celine Dion, but we have a whole number of world-class performers who come to the property for an extended length of time, whether it's Elton John or Rod Stewart, as I say, Celine Dion, a whole collection of world-class performers that we would look to bring to Japan as well. So I think that differentiates us in itself. We have celebrity chefs in our restaurants, which are another form of entertainment. Dining out has become very popular in our properties in Las Vegas, and we would look to bring our collection of celebrity chefs to this market as well. You look at the retail offerings we have, again, a form of non-gaming entertainment that creates a truly unique experience. But all of these are integrated under the Caesars brand and the Caesars environment, why we call it an integrated resort. We're trying to kind of push the concept of an entertainment resort more than an integrated resort, because in effect they're all different forms of entertainment, and working together it creates a seamless guest experience, which we would hope to bring here to Japan.
And what kind of Japanese elements do you imagine will be involved? I mean, obviously to some extent people are talking about it has to be a uniquely Japanese experience at the same time as it's an entertainment and,
Right.
and convention and gambling experience.
Well, that's why I think our position has been, and our discussions with potential partners are all about collaboration, because we want to bring our experience. We've been operating now for over 50 years. We want to bring that experience and marry it with a Japanese sensitivity and sensibility. And I think it will be reflected in a number of ways. I think the design will be uniquely Japanese. We've been talking to Japanese architects about creating something that is reflective of, I think, the Japanese aesthetic, which is, I think you see it all around Japan, how sensitive they are and how refined they are in their design aesthetics. So I think that will be a piece of it. I think it includes the product itself, the levels of hospitality, which in Japan are superior to really anything I've seen around the world. I think we look to build on that. I think it's included in the technology that's used. You know, Japan has a tremendous technological perspective, and everything from robotics and animation. Different technology can be showcased in an integrated resort, and it's a great opportunity for Japan to really create the integrated resort of the 21st century. It's something truly unique and not what you would find in Macau or in Las Vegas today.
Wherever integrated resorts are conceived of, there's going to be political campaigns against them. There's going to be protesters. There's going to be political candidates who are going to run on anti-casino platforms and things like this. What would Caesars be doing to reach out to the community? How do you envision winning over the local public to the idea that hosting an IR is something that they want to do?
I think the only way you can do it is really educating the public and helping them to understand what is this product. And we have a number of initiatives. In talking with the government, they recognize the same need. We had a chance to speak with Abe-san at a session in Washington, D.C., where we talked about how can we help the government in this initiative, and his response was, we need to educate the people. I think once they understand that this is not, an industry of addiction or of criminal activity. I think that they have the perceptions, perhaps, of the Las Vegas of Hollywood, in the 1950s or 60s, and that clearly isn't the case. And it's probably the most regulated industry I can think of. As such, I think it's helping people understand that. And there are some different ways to do that, whether it's bringing media who can communicate most directly to the public to see these properties, to experience them. It's holding roundtables. We've had a couple of roundtables ourselves with the media, trying to help them understand what the sensitive issues are and how we address those issues. I think it's going to be those sorts of initiatives to try and help the public understand. Now, you'll never have 100% support, but I think when you balance the benefits of the industry, what it brings to Japan in terms of economic growth, in terms of tourism, in terms of employment, all of the economic benefits that are proven to be generated from entertainment resorts or integrated resorts, I think that it's a very compelling argument. And if you can balance the harm minimization with the benefits that are being generated, I think you can have a tremendously successful project for both the government and for the community and for those who are investing in the project.